Okay, everyone, we're going to get started here. You probably know we're at the Awesome Women Digital Media panel. Um, real quick note, this is a microphone. It looks like a pillow, but it is a microphone. We will use this for Q&As for this panel and panels going forward. And soft, can I throw this to someone? Anyone want to?
Stop.
Party fail.
Yeah. So, pay attention, but if you get hit in the head, you'll be okay. And take it away, ladies.
Hi, everybody. Happy Friday of Dragon Con. How's everybody doing? Woo! Awesome. It's only Friday. Yesterday felt like Friday. Like you said, welcome to Awesome Women in Digital Media. I'm Jenna, Garrett. I'm going to be the moderator. And let's get started with everybody. Say who you are and what your thing is.
I'm Renee Cosplay. I'm a Twitch streamer, cosplayer, sewist. That's what I do.
Sewist, I like it. I'm Larissa Thompson. I'm the co-founder and CEO of the YouTube channel, The Templin Institute. I'm also a narrator.
I am Talia Lynn, and I am a part of the It's a Southern Thing team and an actress on our web series, So True Y'all, and also a founder of the Literarily Wasted book club.
All right, I'm Abigail Gardner, co-host of Yes Have Some podcast, blogger, YouTuber, and Instagrammer.
And hi everybody, I'm Susie Murph. I'm filling in for Dr. Pamela Gay because she's not here on a plane yet. But I am the producer for all of the things over at CosmoQuest. We have 3 podcasts and a Twitch stream, and we stream launches and all kinds of cool science and space education stuff. So come check us out.
Very cool. So I wanted to get started. This is a question that I have on my podcast anytime we have a guest. How did you get into nerdy stuff in the beginning? Like, what was your What was your gateway drug?
My gateway drug was when I was 13 years old. My dad let me skip school to see the midnight showing of Lord of the Rings.
Nice.
So, yeah.
Sounds
Good
like a really
parenting.
good dad.
He's awesome. Yeah, he's great.
That's awesome.
Yeah, I'm third generation nerd, so grew up watching Babylon 5, Firefly. There was some Star Trek in there, but that wasn't really my family's thing.
So you had no chance.
I had, yeah. I was doomed from the start.
We're the same. Yeah, I grew up with my dad making me watch Star Trek The Next Generation, and then came from a super conservative household, and so the only thing we were allowed to do was go to the library. And I remember having the basket of books and having to drag it behind me because I couldn't pick it up. I had stacked so many books in it, and that was all we did.
Yeah, word. I completely hear you on that. I grew up in a very conservative religious household. I was homeschooled also, so I was kind of already in the nerdiness. But my dad actually read the Chronicles of Narnia and Tolkien to me as a kid, so my obsession kind of started there. And then, being not allowed to watch a lot of movies, it kind of grew my passion for the contraband. So now I'm obsessed with the movies that I talk about on my podcast. But yeah, early on it was my parents for sure.
I can pretty well say that, because I'm probably the oldest one on the panel, going to see the original Star Wars in the theater got me started. I was little when I saw it, but it was the most awesome thing I'd ever seen. And so after that, anything science fiction, fantasy, I would watch on TV, even the show that shall not be named, Battlestar Galactica 1980. If it was there, I was going to watch it. I was going to read anything I could get a hold of. My grandmother took me to the library every week, and I would come out with the biggest stack of books she and I could put together, and I'd run out before I could go back. So pretty much anything I could get a hold of. I was an only child, so I had a lot of time and energy and ridiculous imagination. So I've been dealing with all that ever since.
Nice. Yeah, I have a similar story. My parents were nerd denialists. They were super nerdy, but they wouldn't say that they were nerdy. My mom loved Dark Shadows and everything, and my dad was a big Western nerd. But I stayed with my grandparents a lot, and I got into Star Trek, Star Wars, everything through my grandma and grandpa. It was amazing. They were super awesome people. My nanny still is super awesome. All right, so what is your current main form of digital media?
Wow, that's
What do you do the most of?
Instagram and Twitch right now. I stream on Twitch like 3 or 4 days a week when I'm not traveling, for at least 3 or 4 hours a day. And then Instagram, I try to post in my stories about 3 times a day. And I love doing like just stories and sharing what I'm doing because it's the best way people to see me when I'm not on stream. And I think that that's a good feature. I've been doing a little bit more Twitter, but I would say Twitch is where it's at for me.
Cool.
Yeah, I operate mainly in the YouTube sphere because we're going through a bit of a rework, a revamp of our channel right now. But at our like peak, we were doing like 2 episodes a week, very high produced, high quality kind of stuff. And I'm like kind of in charge of like community management in a way. So I also spend a lot of time on Discord. Yeah, those are my digital media things.
Cool.
Yeah.
We're kind of on everything, but I think the vast majority of our audience is on Facebook by like a lot. Our YouTube is slowly creeping up there and catching up with it, but I think by leaps and bounds, I think YouTube, we're getting close to like 250,000 followers, but Facebook is like 2.8 million little grandmas who love our videos. 'Cause that's just where they all are. And then our book club, we stream on Facebook and YouTube simultaneously for our book discussions and stuff.
That's tight. My mom loves your videos. So, yeah, we are, our podcast, Yes Have Some, we are on Facebook. We have a group called Group Therapy where all of our listeners can kind of interact and talk about the things that they're stressed about and that they're collecting and obsessing over. Me personally, I'm on Instagram. That's where I post my stories and pictures. Facebook as well. YouTube, we're getting there. Search for Yes Have Some and you'll find us. So that's pretty much it.
So CosmoQuest is kind of a multi-tentacled entity because we started out with podcasts. We've had the Astronomy Cast has been going for 13 years as a podcast. And then over time, we've also started live streaming it on YouTube when we record. And then now this year, this past year, we started with doing stuff on Twitch. So we've got the show called The Daily Space, which we do Monday through Friday, where we do like the press releases of space stuff that's come out every day. Dr. Pamela will get on and she will kind of explain in lay people terms what all the press releases mean and why they're important. And we stream a lot of launches now if we can find the video for them, which is really cool when we can find the bootleg videos of the Chinese launches because they don't do public stuff. It's easy to find SpaceX, but not so easy to find Chinese launches and things like that. So we're all over the place. We're podcasts, we're on YouTube, we're on Twitch, and then of course we put everything out on social media, and that's usually my job. I'm not usually the one talking. I'm usually the one posting everything behind the scenes and putting it up, but it's a lot of fun. We create a lot of content to get science out there, to get education out there to an audience, and this summer we had a big project with citizen science. So some of you in the room may even have gone and mapped some of the images of Bennu because we're looking for the place for the OSIRIS-REx mission to land on Bennu and take a sample. And so that was something that the public could engage in and try to help find because we did not expect it to be a giant pile of rocks when we found it, but it was. And so it's really kind of cool because you can be a part of science. And so just search CosmoQuest. On Twitch, we're CosmoQuest X. And so there's something going on almost every day there. So it's a lot. So that's coming up. YouTube is pretty steady in podcast.
Cool. I am purely a podcaster. That's really it. Like I don't even strive to get a bigger following on my personal social media accounts. I just like to podcast. Do you guys feel the need to like constantly, like not constantly, but post every day and constantly find new veins to tap, like new media outlets to get into in order to like stay relevant?
Oh yeah, especially in cosplay, like trying to stay relevant is totally a thing because you have a long backlog of things you want to make, right. But then like something new comes out and you're like, well, this is relevant right now. So like you stop everything to do that. And like for me, like I want to start a podcast.
Yeah.
And I have Twitch and I have YouTube and I have, Twitter and Instagram. And it's like, when do you find time to add that next step? But yeah, I'm always, and then I started a blog this year because I was like, I can blog, I can write about how I make things. People will read it, right? So I always finding a way to be relevant and like adding new little like things that you do to kind of spread across the board too,
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it's kind of a balancing act between doing the new relevant thing, but also doing the thing that people keep coming back for. Our particular channel doesn't really respond well to trying to stay on top of the curve. We find that our most successful videos are all stuff from like the early 2000s, because we do like in-lore documentaries of science fiction and fantasy factions and people and places and stuff. So we're like operating on nostalgia, but still using that nostalgia, but still staying relevant is a kind of interesting balancing act that I'm not confident I've figured it out yet. Working on it though.
Oh yeah, I have no idea. We're just trying to figure it out. And at least when it comes to So True, y'all, the purpose is just to create relatable content. So I don't know that it's so much about making sure that we're relevant as we just want to make sure, has anyone else ever felt this way or had to experience something like this before, especially living here in the South. But I'm guilty of, as far as social media goes, we create all of the content. So much of it is not done live. So we spend so much time actually creating the content and then making sure that it's being implemented online is like a whole different other schedule, and juggling between one brand and another, and then your personal stuff gets neglected, and just trying to figure out accidentally posting a work post on your own Instagram.
Done that.
And then being like, delete.
Double post, I've been there.
Making sure you're in the right Twitter account when you go to post something.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
accounts, absolutely. I'm right there with you when it comes to like juggling and trying to figure out what to put, when it comes to what we do, like unboxing videos, whether to put that on YouTube or in a quick story on Instagram or do it as like a main post. The three of us, Craig and Jake and I, who are in the audience, we usually kind of like talk about it before we make decisions on social media, because there is so many outlets. And it's just, you can do research and figure things out. I personally think that it's kind of difficult to maintain and stay on top of things. We found that Instagram stories and just kind of sticking with what we normally do, like our weekly content is a podcast, and that's out on just iTunes, etc. But we've tried to like film our podcast. That got a little difficult. So it can be something that you have to like manage and see what works and try things.
And the demographics are totally different. Like your Facebook audience and your YouTube audience are two totally
Yes,
separate
Absolutely.
groups of people.
YouTube wants like reaction videos,
Yeah.
which is different content than what we were putting out. So exactly.
Yeah, having had a podcast for 13 years, I haven't been there the whole 13 years, but Dr. Pamela has, because she's been there through the whole time. That's what we call her on the channel. We call her Dr. Pamela, so that's why I'm referring to her that way. And she will be around the con later, so you can check in and spot her. But we have a dedicated audience that have been with our podcast for 13 years, so they don't want us to change that part. And so we don't. But what we did implement doing was filming it live on YouTube and then making the podcast, which we record the audio separately and make it all nice and shiny. And then we have slowly gotten some of them, because a lot of our folks are like retired professionals who now have time to do their hobbies and things. We've slowly been pulling them into coming over and watching some of our live stuff on Twitch. And one of our collaborators, Fraser Kane of Universe Today, he is really bad about wanting to be on the bleeding edge of everything. So he tends to push us to try things. So he's kind of one of those that will often drag us into something new. But Twitch became a really good platform for us because they've been having a growing educational segment of the population. Because, when you're a video gamer or you're a cosplayer or stuff like that, you're also already kind of science adjacent, and you probably have an interest in that. So there's a lot of audience there to tap into. And so there's a group of of Twitch streamers called the Knowledge Fellowship that are all educational streamers. And so we kind of share and promote each other and try to build each other's audiences. So that segment is growing. So what we're trying to do is keep the old and grow the new and figure out what kind of content goes best in each place. But it's a bit of a moving target between all the various forms of digital media and all the forms of social media, trying to keep up with posting what to whom where. It can be a little bit of a headache, and sometimes I'll get a message from Pamela, and she'll go, "We're going to start a podcast next week about this," and I'm like, "I don't think I have enough hours in the day for that, but we'll figure out a way to make it work." So it's a lot of fun figuring out what works where.
Mm-hmm. So you guys have mentioned sometimes we accidentally post to our personal social media accounts instead of the business one. Oops, we all do it. Where do you guys find that the line is, though, between what is your business stuff that you need to post and what is your personal stuff?
I don't post cats in the business.
That's fair. That is fair. That is a good line.
The same thing.
Pets and food.
Pets and food, yeah.
Oh, we make it a point to put puppies in ours because on our Twitch streams, when people donate bits, we have a puppy cam because Dr. Pamela has 3 beautiful Australian Shepherds. And whenever people post bits to us, she'll throw Cheerios at the puppies, and you can watch them in the puppy cam. And we found donations went up ridiculously for doing that.
It works,
And viewership, because dogs,
Yes.
like dogs are a huge thing on Twitch. Dogs,
Yeah.
and like having a dog cam. We had a dog cam for my dog for a while, and now she doesn't want to be in the studio, so she lost her camera.
Aww.
She does not get one anymore. But yeah, because people love pets.
Yeah. So like I said, finding what works on which stream. So Twitch, dogs.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool. So note to self, get a puppy cam. Got it.
Yeah, puppy cam. Yeah, and gamify anything you can.
Nice.
Yeah, if you gamify things on Twitch, it's gonna be way more fun.
That's cool. Okay, so then, how do you interact with the people on your streaming service and on Twitch or on YouTube or whatever? How do you keep their interest piqued?
I don't know. That's
obviously.
So we did for 1 month, and it was really successful, but kind of hard to track. Was we did for bits, they would put their house, their Hogwarts house, in the title, and they would work together to build points for their house. And like the last day, like I had a cutoff, and I said, "This is the last hour." They actually pushed the hour back like 90 minutes because alerts just kept going off because they wanted to win. And Ravenclaw ended up winning. Slytherin gave up. Man, but it was fun. So yeah, like gamifying it, making it, and then like they had a house party, and like I got to I changed all my overlays to have Ravenclaw everything. I knit a Ravenclaw scarf, and it really that was just something that because they could team up together too. Like the community found things that they had in common. So things like that.
We haven't really experimented with gamification per se, but there was one video in particular that we did as an experiment that I'd love to recreate, but it's difficult to pull off. There's a feature on YouTube called polls, not in the YouTube community tab, but actually in the cards. And we posited a question like, do you think battle mechs are realistic? And we had people say yes or no at the top. Then we would present this debate, yes, they're realistic, no, they're not. And then at the end, we had another question saying, is your mind changed? What do you feel now? And an insane amount of interaction. We're still getting comments a year and a half later. It's performed incredibly well, but it requires so much research and time to produce that we don't have time for, which really sucks. But it was a great way to engage the community, and it really sparked a lot of discussion, and there's huge threads in the comments now, which is incredibly satisfying to see.
Yeah, I think that was a big focus of ours was building the community. When we started the Lit Wasted thing, you can create a page and just share content and memes or whatever, but it was the group. We created a group within that, and that's what really created all of the support. Is we made this whole community of people, and the only thing they have in common is they like books, whether it's listening to them, reading them, just audiobooks, that was the common thread tying everybody together, and then it just kind of took off on its own. They all started talking to each other, and we make sure to jump in every now and then and try and interact with people as we can. It's obviously very different on So Trio because the audience is much larger, and it's harder for us to personally engage with each person. We try to do live discussions every now and then so that they know that they're actually talking to us and not someone who's working in like the merch store and like a faceless someone else. But yeah, just trying to engage with them individually when we can, but sometimes you have to, there have been times where we have to kind of draw a line and be like, okay, it's the brand that's talking to you right now and not us as the individual, because it takes up so much time. It's very time consuming.
Maintaining all of that and responding to every comment, like, 'cause that's so important for keeping your numbers up with digital media, social media. But I agree with you with like the common thread, bringing everybody together kind of thing. Our podcast is about movies, specifically like 80s, 90s, Ghostbusters, Jurassic Park. Awesome. But we found that the people who listen to our podcast were all collectors, and there's kind of that like, I don't want to say we're unstable, but like we buy things when we don't like have the money necessarily, and we put them up on shelves and take pictures. Yeah, so sharing those, exactly. So we created something called Group Therapy on Facebook for Yes Have Some, so we can all like share those personal things and talk about the stories, the attachment that we actually have to that VHS tape, and like how it got us through a tough time, etc. And then other people can comment, and it's like there's a lot of special stuff that goes on within that group, and I think that's a really good way to maintain like the interaction and FaceTime with those people.
I think something else with community interaction specifically is so much of it happens organically. All you can really do is provide them a space and just make sure that people aren't being jerks.
Yeah.
And
Be nice.
And that's critically important because, you know, we're in the space education kind of community. And so you get some people who think it's funny to come in and be a flat earther in there.
Oh my gosh.
So we have really good moderators that keep it a very safe, friendly space. So people can ask real questions and get answers, because we have, especially in the Twitch stream, we have a lot of like younger students coming in asking stuff, and we want it to be a good space for them to be able to ask their scientifically, interesting questions, and to have access, because Dr. Pamela is an astronomer. How often do you get a chance to have an astronomer right there to answer your questions? Mm-hmm. So like we take questions daily in our stream, and then we provide a Discord. So everybody can get on Discord and they can talk directly to all of us and all of the people that are in our community. And we moderate that too to make sure everybody's behaving well. But that way we actually have a personal connection with a lot of folks. We've had a few events where we've scheduled and fans have come to do things with us. We went to see the eclipse a couple years back, and so now we can say some of our fans are actually good friends too. Mm-hmm. And there's a number of them. You'll see me hugging people here at DragonCon and stuff. But being able to build that personal connection as well as a professional connection where people can ask scientific questions and stuff, that's one of the things that we've tried to do at CosmoQuest over the years, is just make sure that we're accessible, we're available for people to ask their stuff, if you're serious. Now, if you're being a jerk, we're going to knock you out, and that makes sense. But, it's just play nice with everybody. And then, giving you the opportunity to learn content and see puppies.
And see puppies. Most important.
So you're talking about that balance of how do you balance, and you can take questions you want, but how do you balance that there's three levels: the unreasonable demand of your time, where somebody's really demanding it; the actual demand, where you're meeting your fans; and your private time. How do you find that balance in your life?
Therapy. That's a really tough balance to strike for sure. Making time for yourself, self-care during a busy week, like leading up to DragonCon, being able to allocate a little bit of time for yoga or for journaling or listening to music and doing something that's relaxing, that's not podcast focused, is very, very important. That's usually how I chill.
Oh, I should do that.
Yeah. Learning when to unplug and turn it off and say, okay, I'm not going to respond right now. And it can be hard because we have listeners and viewers all over the world. So, they're in all different time zones. Yeah. But we usually admit what time zone we're in. Like, I'm here in Atlanta, Dr. Pamela is in Illinois. So they know kind of our general time zone. They don't know where our houses are, of course, but they know what time zone we're in. So they know when they might get an answer back. But also the rest of the community is really helpful too in filling in when we're not available. So, but yeah, learning when to turn it off is a really good thing.
I'm trying to train myself into treating my job like a 9 to 5. Not those specific hours, but there's a time when I work and then there's a time when I don't. And during the time when I don't, that's when I do the things that they can help me recharge all the batteries. I can watch Stranger Things, which I hadn't watched for like 3 months. And
Yeah, I think it's really difficult, especially if you maintain a 9 to 5 day job and then come home and do podcast and social media stuff, and then where's your free time to do the things that you need to do to recharge? It's really hard to find that good separate balance, putting your phone down, or if you're not putting your phone down, at least don't look at social media at all, because that place is terrible for you.
It is. I started doing 4 hours a day. Like I segment like a 4-hour session in the middle of my day where I just work on like sewing, and I don't have any media going, like no Twitch going. I'll just have a TV show or something, because my productivity drops dramatically if I post something and then like people want to talk about it.
Oh, yeah.
Because that's the thing that I find happens to me a lot is I'll do something like a new technique and I'll post it in my stories, and then I get flooded with questions, and I'm like, shoot, I should have done this at the end of the day when I can actually respond. I'm trying to finish the thing. But yeah, I've started doing like in the middle of the day, there's 4 hours where I just don't do any social media, and I just go to town on the other work that I need to, or emails, things that are like not the social aspect, the more business side, because then it helps me have free time later, because I'm like, hey, I got so much done. Yeah.
So we don't ever want to, like, we're not ever going to lie to our fans. We don't want to do that. But do you think that it's helpful to maybe do the project that you're working on, and then post later, hey, look at what I am working on right now, except I did it 5 hours ago?
Okay.
Yeah, I do that a lot, actually.
Yeah.
That's
smart.
My work in progress is almost always 7 to 10 days behind actually where I'm at. Because I post, like if I'm doing something live, I'm not going to post while I'm live.
Right.
And so also I like I look at how the feed looks. So, and it's more interesting for me when I'm doing really, really small, tiny things like videos in my stories, and then I get to post the actual like pretty picture of something on my like feed.
Stories are good.
Yeah, it's just more about the balance. But like my stories is probably like always in time, and then feed is like 7 to 10 days later.
Yeah. And I think that way you get to create your story, your narrative of what's happening.
And your
That's
fans
great.
appreciate the detail that comes
Yes.
later. And they can anticipate what's going on and be ready for it.
Yeah.
So,
Yep, collect the content, kind of sit on it, and then post when you actually have the time for it. Especially if you're out like in the moment and you want to be able to absorb it at an event, then it's good to kind of like collect it all and then post it later when you actually have time.
because it can really be distracting if you're trying to produce content while you're trying to experience something.
Yeah.
Like we went to the launch of the Osiris Rex probe, which we were at a launch, and we're sitting there and we're going, okay, we're taking pictures, we need to stop and experience the fact that we're standing there in the press section, which was really awesome, feeling the rocket, going through us. And we needed to experience that ourselves and then produce the content.
Yeah.
So yeah, knowing when to just stop and experience things like
Yeah.
Dragon Con?
Yeah. When we were at Ghostbusters Fan Fest, we were a podcast that talks about Ghostbusters. We were watching Dan Aykroyd and Ivan Reitman and Jason Reitman in front of us, like on stage, and you want to be able to like film it, but also live in the moment and experience it. So some of that's just like like watching while you're also taking a video,
Right.
Trying to live in it.
Yeah, I feel like I'm trying to switch my brain to do the opposite because I'm the kind of person who does like to sit there and live in the moment and experience what's happening in front of me. But it's super selfish of me to just rely on other people around me to be taking the pictures and videos
Yeah,
and
I'm
everything.
exactly the same
Yeah,
way.
it is
I
a
have to
balance.
constantly remind myself, oh yeah, this is supposed to be a picture.
Get a picture. You want this later? Yep. So now let's do something a little heavier. Have you guys experienced any challenges in your media based on your sex or gender?
I don't know if it's my sex or gender, but winning TwitchCon as somebody that sews, there was a lot of men that were like that, like how, like why was she chosen? Why did a dress win? And it was pretty it was exciting to win a thing. So my photographer actually took over my social media for 2 days so that I didn't have to see any of the negative, because you do want to experience the positive. And it was mostly men who don't make costumes saying, oh, a dress won, or whatever they were saying. And it was like, okay, well, I don't care. I wanted to be a girl to be the first one to win this award, and I was. And now yes, and sewing on top of it, which is a lot of the time people think is a female hobby, and I'm like, well, it's not. There's a lot of really awesome men sewists, but they just don't always get the recognition that women get.
Well, it's also so incredibly weird with sewing in particular, because it has been a male-dominated industry for so long.
So long, yeah. I mean, the couture houses were only men. I mean, there was a time period where only men were allowed to sew, and now it's somehow it switched to women, and so, yeah. But I think that and just being a female on Twitch, it's a big thing. They have the whole the boob streamers, and they will call you out if you're a girl and you are somewhat attractive and you stream. They like to think that you're stealing their views, and I'm over here actually, my dog is stealing your views.
Yes.
Just say
it. My dog is cuter than whatever you're doing.
Yeah, no, it's so true.
It hasn't. There hasn't been anything that's made my job harder. But there have been, YouTube comments of why is a girl talking about this when I'm talking about Command and Conquer or something? Why is a girl talking about this? Unsubscribe. So I just shadow block them, and now my comments are great because I've shooed away all the people who are bigoted.
Smart. Yeah, that's the thing I do too, is I delete any kind of negative comments on anything, whether it's, on my gender or on what I'm making. I just delete them. I don't engage. I don't screenshot and post. I just, they're gone. And then people just see positivity and they want to repeat that.
I really enjoy watching them screaming into the void. I picture that often, just their impotent rage and nobody can hear you.
Yes, exactly.
Yes.
Yeah.
Good moderators are worth their weight in gold.
Yes, absolutely.
So if you have fan moderators that are doing an awesome job, send them t-shirts and swag and tell them you love them because they make your streams beautiful.
Yeah, and delete negative comments because you should take the power
they're just
back 'cause
gone.
you don't need that. Yeah, absolutely. I was about to say that I haven't really faced any negativity, but then I remembered that Ghostbusters Answer the Call came out in 2016, and our podcast, that's the movie with all the female cast, we were one of the first podcasts to really take off and talk about that movie, so we got a lot of, just posting anything Ghostbusters in that year, you would get a ton of just disgusting, nasty comments. So I guess I kind of went up against it then, and I think we've all been there. You just have to keep doing your thing. We're still around after that movie, and we're getting another Ghostbusters movie, and it's filming right now. It's gonna be amazing. So just keep doing your thing and screw 'em.
We're kind of on both sides because Literally Wasted is such a supportive community that thus far there has been no negativity. Everybody is really, really supportive and encouraging of everybody else. So True Y'all is a much bigger audience, so there's always gonna be some trolls. Initially when we first started, it was probably more of an issue, but as we built a loyal fan base, now when someone says something ugly, we have the supportive fans who come forward and they kind of jump on it for us, and that's been really fun to watch that transition. But primarily I'm our main team, I'm the only woman on the team, so I do tend to get more comments about my appearance than any of my co-stars get. I think that's something that we're all as women really used to.
Yeah, exactly. You're
General question for the panel: how many times have you guys been proposed to over a comment?
Your marriage material and all that kind of stuff.
Zero. Dr. Pamela has probably gotten, because she's an intelligent woman speaking about really cool topics online, and she's probably gotten proposed to at least once a year, if we didn't catch it in the moderation already, Thankfully, at least the proposals are somewhat respectful, so you can kind of filter those real quick. But
Yeah, I don't think I've ever seen like a gross proposal, but
Yeah.
there's proposals.
But those get sent in private messages.
those
no,
are.
you don't open the DM.
No.
No, and we have Nightbot on Twitch, so it does a lot of auto modding for us. So it like you can block words. So really nasty stuff doesn't come through at all.
Yeah.
We moderators see it when we're doing it, and we're like, you shouldn't have said that. But yeah, having good tools that makes a big difference as well.
And using humor sometimes, because when you use humor to put them like kind of in their place, like I get a lot of the time people are like, show me your feet. And like,
Oh yeah,
so
don't
I
post
pull-
feet on Twitch.
So I pull my sewing feet out, and I'm like, so this is a ruffler foot, like, and they're like, what? Yeah. And then they leave because they're like, I don't know what to say.
I think there has only been one time, because usually on YouTube I don't personally respond to any of the comments because it just opens a door that I don't want to open. But yeah, every now and then I've been, because I put on weight, and so people will call you out, especially when you work in a visual field and you're constantly on camera. People are like, oh, and someone asked if I was pregnant, and I was so tired of getting the comment that I finally replied, and I was like, I just like potato chips.
Yeah.
Does anybody get asked if you're tired when you're not wearing makeup?
Yes.
Or are you sick? All the time.
Are you feeling okay today?
Yeah.
Do you need more coffee?
Do you look did you sleep enough? Like are
Yeah.
you yeah.
No, never, but also that's none of your business.
Yes. Like I've just stopped wearing makeup.
Yes, we always need more coffee. And no, we haven't had enough sleep. Have you seen the puppies? Yeah.
Have you seen the puppies?
Do you guys think that inclusivity has changed, like, since you guys started to now?
I don't know.
Can you repeat the question?
Yeah.
Like, it's easier for you to just jump into a field doing what you like, what you love, doing the nerd stuff, and just produce it and be in it, rather than before. It felt like a lot of gatekeeping behavior before. You do something and men are like, why is a girl doing it?
I don't know. In
Or any
cosplay,
women
there's
sometimes do. Why is a girl doing this?
In cosplay, there's definitely a lot of stuff out there for people. Like, there's so many tutorials and stuff. But gatekeeping, like, there's fandoms that are just awful. Like, the gatekeeping is unreal. And so, being a female in the Star Wars fandom, you have to kind of like pick and choose where you're gonna talk and stuff, because they just, for some reason, there's people there that just don't like women in Star Wars, and it's like, all right, well, we're here, we're not going anywhere.
Right.
Like, so yeah, I don't think anything's changed. I think sometimes, at least for the cosplay stuff, I think the gatekeeping is still there. And I think it's a bigger issue than female male. I think it's an issue of are these girls like makers get a lot more attention because we make things and people are like, oh wow, but they think that unless you show that you made it, they don't care. They think that you just bought it and that you're just going to be a pretty face, and then they're like bitter that you're getting attention because you're a pretty girl. So there's still a lot of gatekeeping, but I do think that there's a lot of women like coming together over it, and so we are at least making our communities. Like there's a whole she prop group that is just females making props, and like males are allowed to come in and hang out and stuff, but it's mostly a female run thing so that we can talk about it and not feel like we're inadequate, you know?
Yeah, absolutely. You have to see your own value 100%. And I think that the community that we've grown with Yes Have Some, I've been able to find other females, some of which are sitting in the audience right now, who are super into Star Wars and Ghostbusters just like me, and have come up against the same flag of like, oh, well, why are you in on this? Like, do you know as much as me? And it's literally like 100% about your passion and like how much you like it, and like own that shit. So
yeah, because they like to ask you questions. Like if you're cosplaying a certain character, they'll drill you.
Yeah.
You're like, I didn't come here for like an exam. I'm just here to make a thing because I like it. It's like wearing a fan t-shirt. Like if you're wearing a t-shirt of your favorite, comic book, cosplay is the same thing. You're just in the costume instead of the t-shirt.
Yeah, costume's a lot more expensive than a t-shirt. So why would you spend all this money and this time on something you don't like? That makes no sense. Yeah.
So not necessarily a gender thing, but when my co-star and I first started, to get real talk for a second, we're starting this thing before we launched So True Y'all, which is just about relatability. It was strictly, it's a Southern thing. And if you don't mind me saying, we're both biracial. And I think for a lot of people, they picture old Southern culture a very specific way. So when we first started, that was a big hurdle for us. A lot of people straight up said, y'all don't look Southern. And we had to be like, what does that look like to
What
you?
does that even
Like,
mean?
is it because we're not wearing overalls and we're wearing shoes? Like, don't like,
I'm like, have you been to the South lately and seen
I'm
people?
born and raised in Alabama, and
Yeah.
like my dad has a farm. I don't know what you want from me. So that was a huge struggle, and it took a while. We got a lot of comments on our appearance of how we didn't look Southern, we didn't sound Southern enough, we sounded too Southern, we were pretending to be Southern. Like, it was a lot of that, and it was the same kind of thing that progressively over time, people started to kind of come out of the woodwork. I would get messages that are still my favorite from someone being like, hey, you know, one of my parents is from here, you look like my sister, my daughter looks like you, and just thank you for showing that the South is so much more diverse than we get credit for a lot of the time, because people focus on the negative. And seeing that now, it's like every blue moon someone will come out and be like, I think they're faking. And then just people jump on him, and they're like, maybe you're faking. And it's so silly, but it is still, it's really nice to see that those people that didn't believe in us before realized it's really us, and they're here for it now. And so that's really gratifying.
Yeah, that's awesome. And I think it's really hard to be like a Southern woman.
In
or
general.
Southern anything.
It's hard to be a woman. It's hard to be Southern, especially in this day and age.
Yeah.
And like, there's so many factors. Let's not make it harder than it already is.
I've been only working with the Templin Institute for like 2 years now almost. So that's not like enough of a metric to know whether or not things have been improving on the inclusivity front. But I can say it also varies dramatically by fandom. Warhammer, for example, is not a very inclusive fandom. It's really the people who spend their time on YouTube, which is where we are very, very, very protective of Warhammer and quite judgmental anytime they hear or perceive it's being threatened. But I also know Warhammer people who are like good people who just like to play the game, and that's it, and they're fine, but they don't go on YouTube. So it's also like the digital media space is a microcosm where the worst people can find each other and like band together and travel in droves, whereas the inclusive people don't, because they have a life. So, like, it's hard to say, because like just going off the objective numbers in my YouTube comments, I'd say no, it's not getting better. But I also recognize that my YouTube channel is not the entire world.
Yeah, it's like an echo chamber.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So I can't accurately judge here.
Yeah. I definitely feel like, because I do a podcast in the comics community, so I definitely feel like the comics community at least has become way more inclusive of women. There's so many amazing comics creators. But even when we first started the podcast, I would still, like, when I would go to a comic shop that wasn't my normal comic shop, I would still get like the looks and are you getting that for your boyfriend? That's cute. I'm like, shut up. Yes, this one's for my boyfriend, but the stack is for me.
Yep.
Okay, so I think it's time to open up for questions. Cool. Super awesome, fantastic ones, and I will not be throwing that box because I will hit you and you will not like it.
And while you're taking questions, I can just
Ready?
quickly mention that Dr. Pamela, being a female scientist in the space community, that's a whole different level of inclusivity and not. But what has been amazing is all these years she's been able to establish, herself as a professional, as a knowledgeable expert in the field. And we have a lot of people who comment on our videos and posts and podcasts and stuff about how much they appreciate seeing a woman there. And young girls now. I mean, my daughter is one. She's in college now, who look to Dr. Pamela as an inspiration. So representation matters. Seeing people who are like you, where doing things you want to do, it's very important. So that was just my quick comment on that.
Yeah. That's awesome.
Hi guys. I had to write this down. Most of you are multi-platform. So how do you keep track of audience metrics, and what type of metrics? Or do you?
I had one milestone that I wanted to hit, and that's 10K on Instagram to get swipe up, and now I just don't even pay attention. I definitely pay attention to the comments, and I make sure I'm interacting, but beside that, like, numbers can like severely deter you. So looking at numbers, I don't really worry about that anymore. I just kind of make sure that there's chatting happening and communicating.
Yeah, at the beginning, I was paying attention to the numbers because I was wanting to understand where my views were coming from and how to best utilize that and take advantage of those numbers. But after a certain point, it doesn't matter anymore. So I guess like the metrics that I was watching was like traffic. Where is my traffic coming from?
Oh, yeah.
You also don't want empty numbers. Like, yeah, it might look good to have so many followers, but if they're not all engaging with you and with one another, then what's the point?
It actually doesn't look good when you have that more and they're not engaging on your posts. Yeah, it can be really
It
tough.
looks like you're failing.
Yeah, and podcasts are also very tough to track to figure out who's listening to what because you have so many different formats like iTunes and just a whole bunch of different formats out there. I won't go into all of them. So yeah, it's hard to figure out exactly how many people are listening and how many completed views you're getting on YouTube. But yeah, don't get disheartened by things and don't get obsessive with the numbers. Just keep doing what you're doing, basically.
And with our stuff, we have different goals based on which platform we're dealing with right there. Because like with the podcast, we just want to make sure they're not going down. We want to keep our audience there. On Twitch, we're trying to get our numbers up because we're getting to the various levels of partnership. You know, because the higher views you have in Twitch, the more Twitch helps you, which is fantastic. And that's really the kind of things we're keeping our eye on and not worrying so much about every little thing day to day.
Going back to the staying relevant topic, do each of you have a specific example of where either a topic, a movie, a cosplay came into effect and just took off to where you had to stop what you were doing or what you had planned, set that aside, and like, if I'm going to hit this, I need to jump on this now?
I think it's really easy for me because mine is it's a weekly thing. New books come out every single week and I read them. But for us, we have to spend so many minutes talking about, I think, House of X and Powers of 10 right now because it is insane and crazy. And in order to keep up with everything that people want to talk about, you have to spend 15, 20 minutes talking about those books every week.
Oh. Good.
Quick question for podcasters. Do you have any quick tips or on starting a podcast and what platforms you would approach? Because I just got into listening to podcasts this year, and they're super dorky and very niche. But you know, I'm an Apple user, and so how are other people getting their content? Because I honestly haven't explored that. Thank you.
I'd say the new up and comer, because I've been listening to podcasts since 2005. So that was actually before iTunes really was a thing. But now, as my kids are kind of coming in, my teenagers are coming in and watching podcasts, Spotify's a place where they're catching a lot of stuff. And a lot of your hosts have a way for you to automatically put it over on Spotify. So people are doing that more, especially now with iTunes going away, Apple Podcasts kind of going down, and changing the way they're doing things.
Yeah. Spotify is great. I completely agree. And when it comes to like timeliness, it's definitely just going back to the last question. When it comes to wanting to get content that's relevant, when it comes to like a trailer that drops or information that's like hot, we've recorded on a plane before, like on the way back from seeing a movie, because it was like, we gotta talk about this right now. So yeah, catching it right when it's there. When it comes to starting a podcast, my number one advice is just don't stop. Just keep going. No matter how much you just want to not do it one night, just keep at it. And you'll find your groove. But yeah, iTunes is fantastic, and then Spotify is where we put most of our stuff up, and I'd recommend that.
Put out your content consistently on a schedule. Keep people interested.
People get used to it.
Just get a Yeti microphone and start doing it. If you're thinking about doing it, just do it. Worry about the way it sounds after you've gotten a few episodes out, and then get better equipment.
Yeah, don't spend a ton of money on equipment up front because you don't really know what you need yet.
True.
That goes with Twitch too. You don't have to buy a lot of equipment to just get started.
Yeah.
And depending on where you host, there we go. Depending on where you host, they'll do a lot of that for you. They'll distribute it. I'm going way back here because I'm not going to throw this all the way across the room. Here we go.
Hey, thank you guys for being here.
Of course.
Also, Casey Renee, I'm your biggest fan.
I know you are.
She's my fiance.
Good point.
Not a creeper. Good job.
No, he's not.
Speaking of proposals, so you guys mentioned representation obviously is important, and I'm a strong believer that terminology and words are also important. What are some words that maybe people don't realize are destructive, and what are some words that we can use instead?
Oh, that's a good one.
That is really good.
I can see why
Any term that refers to your race, probably not necessary ever.
Or size.
Yeah,
Size.
yeah.
Any size at all. Yeah.
Anything referring to your appearance, just stop.
If it's something you can't control.
Right.
Yes.
Yeah.
If you can control it, cool.
Yeah.
I like your shoes because you picked them out. All right.
You did a really fly wing. Nice.
Yeah.
I don't like the word girl when referring to anyone older than 12.
Yeah, I get that.
And like I get why, and I've done it myself too, so it's not like it must change now, but I don't know. We're women, we're ladies.
I feel like it's ingrained in us too. Like how often do you see a 40-year-old man and say, "Look at that boy over there"?
Yeah.
No.
We don't.
It doesn't feel quite as natural. I think it's kind of it's just been pushed into our heads over and over again.
Yeah. So that one's gonna take some work.
Yeah.
Basically, just be respectful.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
if it's something you wouldn't want a friend of yours to come up and say to you, you know, kind of looking at you like, why are you wearing that? You know, don't say it to a streamer, podcaster person.
Don't refer to someone by their hair color. They don't usually like that.
Oh yeah. Hey guys.
I don't mind
Guys is one of those
Yeah.
that I think people are trying to use it because it's a little less specific. It's a little bit more of a, I don't know. We don't have great words in our language right now.
Y'all is good.
Y'all is perfect.
Yeah, y'all, and I call everyone boo. I'm like,
Yeah.
hey, boo, hey. That way I don't have any gender, because especially on Twitch, you don't know gender. You know nothing. It's just a name.
And you don't have to be Southern to use y'all.
No.
Because
I condone it.
yeah.
I say friends a lot, too. I'm like, hey, friends, I'm going to go do this thing now.
I call a group of people humans, which is probably not like the most.
I kind of do that sometimes,
we
too.
have-
It's not like the
We
most
do that.
normal casual thing, but
Yeah,
I'm
like-
like, hey, human.
We do that.
I'm
We
assuming
we
you
say
probably
we
are,
love
right?
you humans. You know.
And when I get
You're
mad,
an
I'm
awesome
like, you are a
human.
grown
all
adult
humans
human.
Yeah.
Stop it.
I like dude. Dude
I do
can
like dude a
also
lot.
apply
Yeah.
to inanimate objects. So
I use folks. You know, hey folks,
Hey,
what's up?
folks, yeah.
You know, I use that a lot because it's indeterminate.
I'm trying to make boy BOI a gender neutral thing. It's not working, but I'm trying.
I did
Yeah.
the girl with a U for a while.
Yeah.
Hi, I just wanted to ask about what it was like starting out. Like, I feel like right at the beginning, does it kind of feel like you're screaming to avoid, like
Yes.
when
Yeah.
at the
Absolutely.
beginning?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Especially,
100%.
I started right when Creative was launched, so no one knew who we were. And I had I had one viewer. This was back when the one viewer was you. I had one viewer for 6 months, and I actually thought I was talking to somebody. I wasn't, but hey,
It's good practice.
It was great practice.
Yeah.
You get good at monologuing.
Yeah.
You know, and you can have 75 viewers and still no one's talking. So you get really good at telling stories, really good at monologuing, and really good at just saying what you're doing over and over again.
Yeah, I think that is important to point out. Is really good practice.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, absolutely. I remember the first time I podcasted, I was sitting on my living room floor, like crisscross style, and it was just like you're just talking and talking and talking, and basically for me I found that the more I could make my co-hosts laugh, the better things got if we're all having a good time. So that's kind of when we hit our stride. We tend to make each other laugh. So
one of our hosts, Annie Wilson, has recently started, and she gets embarrassed, so she tells her fiance not to come in the room when she's talking to the stream, because she's like, I sound like I'm not talking to anyone. When I remind her, and especially in the chat, if I'm in there, I remind her, no, you're talking to all of us. We are actually interacting. But Dr. Pamela has been doing this so long, she has gotten so good that I rarely have to do much editing on her now. You know, especially the audio podcast, she will do a clean take, and it is beautiful, and it is a thing of wonder. So if you have a producer, do that for them. It's awesome.
The less you edit, the better.
Yeah.
We used to edit a lot more in the beginning, and now we don't really edit at all. It's kind of nice. You just keep it all in there.
Yeah, I have a little hobby podcast, Team Lucifer podcast. And so I'm going to be doing some of that experiencing later this weekend. But yeah, I'm editing like crazy right now because we're still doing ums and uhs as we're trying to talk. So practice. I
find having a snack helps.
Oh,
Anytime I can't think of what to say, I just start eating.
Eating, yeah. Or like if you have a dog, you can just play with the dog.
Right.
Yeah.
As many distractions as possible.
Toby will come into my stream every now and then they'll just go crazy. They're like, oh my God.
Yeah, we'll get started in the chat on random, slightly off-topic things, but always, appropriate and amusing, usually involving food or puppies. And whenever, Pamela or Annie need a break, they'll just stop, look at what we're talking about in the chat, and start talking about that. Because, sometimes you need a little brain break, especially if you've been streaming for 3 hours talking about, writing code to map an asteroid or something. Because she actually streams that sometimes. I don't know how she does it.
All right, one more question, and then we'll shameless self-promote.
You mentioned filler words. How many of you are in Toastmasters? And if you're not, please come see me.
I guess I have to come see you.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I'm not in Toastmasters. Maybe I should.
I've heard of it.
I
good idea.
Okay.
Yes.
I was like, I like toast.
I love toast. Avocado toast.
Yeah. All right, so let's tell everybody where you can find us.
I'm on Instagram, Twitter, Twitch, Casey Renee Cosplay. I have a website, CaseyReneeCosplay.com. I have a blog, YouTube. It's all Casey Renee Cosplay.
My main channel is the Templin Institute on YouTube. We're also on Twitter at TemplinEDU. And then Instagram, Facebook, that whole 9, same deal, Templin Institute. And my personal Twitter is The Real Larissa. Real is spelled R-E-E-L.
I should have written this down. So it's a Southern thing, and So True Y'all are on Facebook and YouTube and Twitter and Instagram, and then also they just started the one with it's not Vine anymore, TikTok.
Oh, TikTok.
I think they started doing that. And then Literally Wasted is on Facebook and YouTube and Instagram and Twitter. And then I am on Facebook and YouTube and Instagram. And we're really easy to find because when we search for the name, there's literally nothing else that uses that word. So just make sure you spell it literally wasted and not literally wasted, which means something totally different.
Yeah.
Like it. Okay, cool. So you can find Yes Have Some Podcast. Our website is yhspodcast.com. From there, you'll find links to Instagram, which is at YHS Podcast. We are on Facebook. Just search for Yes Have Some Podcast. You can join our group therapy in there. Me personally, I'm on Instagram at /_mommy. That is my personal account, and I'm on Facebook too. And we're on YouTube. You can search for Yes Have Some Podcast.
Okay, and we are at CosmoQuest X on Twitch. That is the best place to find us right now because all of our other links are below the the screen on Twitch. But you can also just Google CosmoQuest and you'll find it. We have our blog and our website, and you can Google us over on YouTube and find all of our content, because everything that we do on Twitch we archive over on YouTube, so it will keep forever. And we have tons of playlists, so you can kind of sort for whatever you want. I'm personally Susie M. Murph on Twitter, but you may not want to follow me if you don't want to hear me complaining about Georgia politics. So you can stick with the professional stuff, because I get a little ranty. But yeah, CosmoQuest X, look for us.
And if you guys want to see me again, I'm sorry, I have to jump in. I'm going to be on a sci-fi American classic track tomorrow at the Marriott. Yes, Have Some Podcast is live at 1 p.m.
Sweet.
Yeah.
Nice.
Give a big round of applause, please.
That's cool, Charles. That's cool.
It's time. It's time.
Panelology.
I'm doing the sweat work. Oh, I thought you went. Tell everybody where they can find the wonderful Jenna Garrett.
PanelologyPodcast.com, at Panelology everywhere on social media, at Jen Chill or Jenna Gary 14.
And in 30 minutes, right next door, doing your show live.
That's right.
Yes.
Absolutely. Come see Jenna. Please follow us on Twitch. We're streaming this room live. This panel went out. It will be in the on-demand for a while, so you can tell your people to go. No, absolutely. I'm sorry. You know what you did.